If you're gonna do any type of detox or any type of cleanse, you gotta do these two things first. And I see more times than not, both practitioners, influencers, and whoever else is promoting detox forget to talk about these two things. And truthfully, these two things are either going to make or break your detox. What do I mean by that? I've been in the detox realm for well over a decade, and I've seen what I think is everything. But you know what? I'm not gonna say that because I know somebody's gonna come up with something kind of crazy or something that's gonna just baffle me. So I'm not gonna say I've seen everything because I definitely have not, but I've seen a lot of things. And I have had, over the past 5 years with my social media presence, had people tell me, oh my God, detox almost killed me. I did a detox and I felt worse. It made me feel so much worse. And everybody was saying I was gonna feel so much better. My headaches were gonna get better. My fatigue was gonna get better. My aches and pains were gonna get better. I'd have more energy. I'd have clearer thinking. My bowels, my this, my that. None of that happened. Everything got worse. And I'm gonna tell you why. All right, you guys ready for it? Number one, the very first thing that I see not happening is people are not opening up and supporting their drainage pathways. Now, that's a big problem because our drainage pathways are there to ultimately drain and remove the waste, the toxins that we're exposed to on a daily basis. So if we're doing a detox or a parasite purge, we're ultimately asking our body to process a huge amount of toxins or a huge amount of pathogens that are in our body, along with everything else that it is trying to process, and then have it removed, eliminated. The problem is, one of the reasons why people end up with an accumulation of toxins is their drainage pathways aren't working in the first place. So hear me out. If you are not opening up, clearing, supporting lymphatic drainage, what's gonna happen is when you're using detox, you're using supplements to pull, because that's really what a detox is it's pulling toxins that have built up in your body over a week, a month, years, decades, more likely decades. And ultimately what's happening is it is circulating in your system. So your lymph has to catch it, turn it into, return it to the circulatory system, bring it to the liver for the liver to process. Once the liver processes it, then it's gonna go either into the urine or into the stool for it to be eliminated. The fact of the matter is, if our lymph isn't flowing, those toxins are literally just going to accumulate in another body part. I want you guys to think of this. If you live somewhere where you get winter, like Canada, where I'm from, they use a lot of sand, a lot of gravel in the winter to help reduce with the ice on the road to prevent car crashes. Well, the problem is in the spring when everything melts, the roads are a freaking disaster. Everything's dirty, everything's gross. So they have street sweepers that come in, and ultimately what they do is they shuffle up all the debris on the road. It's not like it sucks it up, it just shuffles it up, it goes into the air, and then it lands somewhere else, whether it's the boulevard or it goes into the air and the wind takes it and it's now sitting in a tree. It's ultimately just moving it. That's what will happen during a detox if your drainage pathways aren't open. So starting with lymph. Lymph has to be open and flowing. That's why I teach the specific 7. That's why after the specific 7, then you can learn manual massage. You can incorporate vibration. You can incorporate rebounding. You can incorporate other lymph nodes depending upon your needs. So lymph is super duper important. After lymph, your liver has to be able to function. So if you're somebody that has fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, cirrhosis of the liver, high liver enzymes. So if you look at your labs and they're lab high, your liver is not functioning properly. So you gotta support the liver first before you can ask it to do even more work. Imagine this. Imagine you're at work and you have your normal workload, and then all of a sudden your boss comes in and goes, hey, I also need you to do this and this and this and this, and gives you a whole bunch of other tasks. And I need you to do it in the same amount of time. Are you gonna be able to do it? Oh my goodness, your workload just got crazy, and something's gonna give. And that's kind of what's gonna happen to your liver, because your liver still has to process all of the toxins that it's exposed to on the day-to-day basis. And then you're asking it to process all of the toxins that your body has accumulated over the course of years, decades. That's a lot of pressure on the liver. So you gotta make sure your liver is functioning properly before you ask it to do even more work. Then when it comes to gut and kidneys, you gotta make sure that one, you're pooping every single day, and you gotta make sure you're pooping enough. So I want you to look at your wrist to your elbow. That is the amount of fecal matter that needs to be coming out of you on a regular, i.e. daily. Not necessarily circumference, but the amount lengthwise. Most people aren't pooping that much. If you're not pooping that much, you ultimately have you likely have a slow transient time, meaning your processing of your food and everything isn't as fast as it should be. And so what happens is as fecal matter sit in your gut, you start reabsorbing those toxins, which then means more toxins to try and detox, which means more pressure on your system. And then when it comes to kidneys, you got to make sure you're hydrated, because if you're not hydrated, your kidneys aren't going to be able to properly eliminate the water-soluble toxins that your liver has created. All right, so number one, better make sure those drainage pathways are working. Number one. Otherwise, you are going to feel like absolute crap. Like I said, you're going to stir everything up, but nothing's going to leave. Who the heck wants that? You're ultimately dusting your whole body, but you're not removing the dust. You're literally just shifting it from one spot to another. Not a good option. And then number two, this is probably one thing that I rarely hear practitioners talking about, is if you're doing a detox, you have to reduce your toxic exposure for the detox to be worthwhile. What does that mean? Well, every day we're exposed to toxins, and there's definitely going to be certain toxins that we have no control over. I get that. We're not going to live in a bubble. We're not going to live in fear, but we definitely can make better choices as to what we expose our body to. And that's what I'm talking about. So if we're constantly using things like perfume that is created in a lab, so all of that fragrance full of like parabens and sulfates and phthalates and all of those endocrine disrupting chemicals, what's going to happen is over time our body absorbs it, right? Because what goes on our body goes in our body, and that's going to be something that our body's going to have to detox. If we're constantly eating out of plastic, right? So if we're buying our food that's prepared in plastic, or if we're reheating our food in plastic storage containers, or if we're using, non-stick pans or black plastic utensils for cooking, like you name it. Everything that we're exposing our body to, our body has to break it down. So if we're doing a detox, but we're not reducing our toxic exposure, we're not going to get the same results from that detox. It's going to be less effective. I want you to think about it this way. If you're trying to detox while still exposing yourself to the same chemical load, it's kind of like you being in the shower and then trying to dry off while still in the shower and the water's running. How effective is that going to be? It's not going to be super effective, right? And if we're going to spend money and time on doing a detox, let's make it as effective as possible. So please, I am begging you, if you're going to do a detox, or if you know somebody that is going to do a detox, please, please, please have them make sure their drainage pathways are open and clear, and make sure they're reducing their toxic load. One of the things that I think I'm going to do throughout the year is share with you guys some clean option swaps so that we can reduce our toxic load, so that our drainage pathways can ultimately work better with or without doing a detox. So what I would love to know is, what clean swaps are you guys looking for? Is it swaps in the kitchen? Is it swaps in the bathroom? Is it personal hygiene products? Is it clothing options? What is it you guys are looking for? And put them in the comments, and I will make note of them, and I will do a video explaining, what I use, or what would I use if I were to do something like this, and why. All right. Thanks so much for being here. As always, happy draining, and I hope you guys learned something new.